of the Labor Day weekend, the end of summer, the end of that irrational exuberance that in June or in May, where most people kicked out their inner policemen, so to speak. You know, it's like they kind of slough off on their drudgery and responsibilities. And it's the last hurrah effort before going back to responsible normality, so to speak, and drudgery. And, well, north of Still River is a little podunk about 5 miles north of Still River, Northville. And Carl Krasansky lives there. He used to drive around in a old woody sky blue Ford Fairlane station wagon, and he had his dog Sparky, who passed away years ago, mounted on the roof. Sparky was sort of like a large terrier type, mutt type dog. He had one snarl lip which a tooth would stick out. He wasn't that pleasant to look at, but he was friendly and everything. Well, when Sparky passed, Carl couldn't get over it. He had him stuffed and mounted on the roof of his station wagon, and he used to, dress up Sparky for different holiday seasons and events like, Santa Claus or Rudolph. He had little antlers, a little red nose for the Christmas and New Year's and the holiday season, winter holiday season. Easter bunny ears for Easter, and he had like a Uncle Sam hat or a Superman outfit for 4th of July, and he had like, I don't know, I think it was either Jimmy Hoffa or somebody like that for Labor Day weekend, and he would have like Dracula for Halloween with a cape and a hat and a mask. Well, anyway, in the last 7 years, Carl would head up this, they'd have this small, started off informal Labor Day, the Weirdo Labor Day Parade, which wouldn't last too long, but it was weird. Everybody dressed up as weird as they could that wanted to march in it. Carl would be at the head of the parade in his station wagon. He had a little red bubble light like on a police car and a little siren to head up the parade. And there was like a 76 kazoo marching band of kids, adults, all dressed really weird. As weird as you have to dress as weirdly as you can. And there were some really weird outfits. And they would play things on kazoos like Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix, Whole Lotta Love by Led Zeppelin, Come On Baby Light My Fire, the Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, and other old rock favorites usually. And so that's starting off, getting ready for Labor Day. And the last insurrection of the real free-range farm run by Chesterfield Long, about 10 miles north of Still River. He runs a real free-range farm, ducks, chickens, pigs, all kinds of guinea hens, and he has a couple llamas, a couple cows, donkey, a horse, some turkeys, geese, and they kind of, during the summer, used up most of the free-range grass on his fields. So they find a way out, and they take off down the road about a quarter mile to the next fields, which weren't eaten, and they go in there and have their free-for-all Labor Day fest. So that happened this week, and they have to get townspeople to go up and herd them all back to Chesterfield Long's farm. Chesterfield Long's dad was named Winston Long, so they decided to name him Chesterfield. Anyway, school starts. And the first day of school, what a momentous, singular event. I'll never forget the first day of school. Uh, Back in those days, there was no tracking, no separation of classes. You were thrown in with a mix of everybody. And you didn't have preschool or any preparation. Thrown right into first grade. And the parents would drop off their children right at the door of their respective classrooms. And I had Mrs. Skazafava, the first grade teacher, the bane of my early education experience. And Miss Skazafava was tough. And I remember one set of parents, I'll never forget her name, Pat. They brought her and their daughter, and she was screaming and crying and screaming and kicking and crying and scratching. They had to take her home. They had to do like 3 days, 3 efforts to try to get her to stay. And I was sitting next to two brothers whose father were doctors, and they were pretty well to do. They had lunches like you wouldn't believe. And they came in with their show and tell on the first day. They both had huge Tonka toy sets bought on their annual trip to London. These were like the early handmade Tonka toys with little men, almost exact replicas in the varnished mahogany or wooden cases with little cubby holes and covers for each item, and they would go through each vehicle step by step. So that took up part of the day. But the singularity was Charlie. Big Charlie. Big Charlie came in, lumbered in. He was like the first 5.5-foot first grader I think I've ever seen. He was at least 220 pounds. He came in wearing new Lee overalls and a plaid shirt and a cap and a lunch pail. And I mean, it wasn't a lunch pail, it was a lunch bucket. It looked like a covered bucket. And he lumbered over, sat in the back. And, once attendance was taken and Charlie raised his hand for his name, he promptly folded his arms on the desk and went to sleep. We would have to wake up Charlie. Charlie's father worked on a local dairy farm for a local dairy that made ice cream locally also. And he was up like 4 in the morning helping milk the cows. This is in first grade, mind you. And lunchtime came, and Charlie pulled out what looked like a full uncut loaf of Italian bread with like at least 2 inches thick of meatloaf and ketchup on it, and a milk bottle, like a whole quart milk bottle, which had like this sipping thing on the end. It was like a cover that had a mouth thing on it to drink. And we were amazed. All us kids just sat together in awe of each other and just sat and stared at each other for an hour, going over each other, sizing each other up. And of course you had like the folks from the other side of the tracks, and then you had Edmund Brown. Edmund Brown was a big, lanky, tall black kid, and he was loud. And he would like run to the bathroom and have his bathroom apparatus out even before he closed the door to the bathroom. And Edmund came without food. I think he walked 5 miles to school every day. And at lunchtime, And this would go on right through 4th and 5th grade. We sat down at lunch in the cafeteria, and the hot lunches were horrible, especially defamed chicken a la king. I don't even want to describe what it looked like on the plate or what it smelled like. But whatever the lunch was, if you didn't eat it, Edmund had he must have had 6-foot arms. Because if you didn't eat your dessert or your sandwich or whatever you had for lunch, and it was sitting on your tray or table, very shortly this big hand would unravel down the length of the table and plop and pick up like a big claw, whatever it was, and roll back away. And you were kind of grateful for it because, the cafeteria women, if you were throwing away a lot of your lunch, they would note it. And somehow it would get back to your parents, especially if you're falling asleep in school or not functioning well, that he's probably not getting enough nutrition. That's why he really needs to eat his snacks and his lunch, or she. So that's the first day of school in Still River. And it's hot and sticky out like July. Probably not for too long, but long enough.